After 15 years of mastering the art of being the ultimate villain, building his tower, and kidnapping princesses, he finally gets told by the hero that he's not a demon king but just a personal trainer, so instead of giving up, he hits the reset button and decides to burn the rulebook. Now branded a traitor and banished from the demon realm, our demon king is set to prove the world wrong without a guidebook, and let me tell you, he is having a terrible day. Torn and bruised, I watched the fake heroes stand over my broken throne. The legendary black flames he was so proud of, the ultimate power of the demon king, couldn't even singe the hair on this hero party, which was truly a product recall. Why could the hero's sword god just casually walk up and poke a hole through the legendary demon's scales right to his heart, when it was supposed to be tough armor and not soft paper? He couldn't believe it, since he followed the rules perfectly yet everything still went wrong. You see, our boy Burjadejas was an overachiever who entered the Demon King's military academy as the top student, graduated with the highest honors, and was even voted most likely to rule the world. He was completely obsessed with a handbook created by the first Demon King that taught villains how to be evil, and he studied it more than anyone else. Just as the holy book said, he rose a towering dark structure, the kind of grim building that signals pure evil. He snatched princesses away just like any kidnapper would, but here's the crazy part. He also trained the brave heroes who came to rescue them. To the Demon King, their anger and sorrow were the finest feast, but slaughtering them too soon is a mistake, so he must let them grow like a good meal. The real test of being a true hero is helping your friends grow up so you can eat them, and the bigger and tougher they get, the tastier they become. He drank up the pain and rage of the heroes and people until he became the greatest Demon King, or at least that's what he believed. Back in the real world, the hero Cargill flashes a grin that clearly says, "You're an idiot," and tells the Demon King, "You always say the same thing. You are the ones who invited this, so why do you act like the world has ended?" The speaker laughed, unable to hide their smug satisfaction. Burgias could only mumble bullshit. But the hero's real adventure was just beginning. Bullshit? You Demon Kings always kidnap the most famous princess and leave us clues so we can save her. Cargill says, then leans in to add, "If you were me, I'd kill the king to plunge the kingdom into chaos, because fighting over the throne means humans turn their anger on each other instead of you. And without that anger, you can't grow as a Demon King." The hero throws his head back and laughs, shouting, "That's not even the best part. If we don't head to the tower, you'll send monsters to the villages and train us, and I couldn't be happier about that. But if we head to the tower, the whole thing becomes a lot simpler. The bottom floor is packed with weak monsters for everyone to train at their own pace and grow their skills, but our boy can't handle the truth that you're not a Demon King, just a personal trainer, as his entire philosophy crumbles because heroes can't die halfway, proving that gathering energy was the smart play all along. The rules he learned weren't wrong. He just played a game that was set up to fail from the very beginning." Then Cargill yanks his blade out of our boy's chest, proving that when the tower gets too dull, the only move left is to kill the Demon King. Then a new Demon King and tower will rise again, letting heroes keep resetting the dungeon to clear it over and over. Cargill beamed with pure, unashamed joy, declaring it the perfect hunting ground for us heroes. Right, guys? While the other heroes cheered, they thanked the Demon King and called him the best godfather ever, showing such amazing disrespect that it was almost breathtaking. They clap their hands and thank him for finding the perfect hunting spot, even though they are giving him a terrible performance review after killing him, just like in The Godfather. The words bounce around in Burge's broken head, turning his tower from a fortress into a trap, and suddenly everything he thought he knew falls apart. Cargill seems almost sympathetic, admitting you were strong despite the many heroes who died, but then his grin returns as he raises his sword to deliver the final blow and say goodbye to the Demon King. They think they can make me look small, but that just makes me see how crazy the Demon King really is, and my anger starts to boil over. I won't let this be my end. I can't die for nothing. I stand as the Demon King. He let out one last, desperate scream of pure rage against the tragic fate he had built for himself. As his life slips away, a hero claims the Demon King's body as loot, declaring his horns are theirs. But then strange purple energy crackles from the corpse, making the hero pause in confusion. A final spark of anger remains in his fading mind, whispering that he'd rather burn out his last breath than let anyone else live. With one final curse, his last bit of strength bursts into a huge purple flash, sending up a defiant middle finger to the whole world. It turns out the rules were all wrong, and if I'd known the heroes despised Demon Kings because of those same rules, I never would have followed them. And as his final breath leaves his lips, he whispers a wish. If he ever gets another shot, he'll throw all the rules right out the window. Berga Diaz opens his eyes to find he is still alive. He stands in a grand hall in a familiar uniform, surrounded by demons, and wonders what on earth is going on. His head spins as he tries to make sense of how he could be alive after the last thing he remembered was dying in shame. A squeaky voice from the stage calls for Bergadias to step forward, and though he freezes in shock, the small imp-like official urges him toward the spotlight where every eye is fixed on him as he realizes this isn't the afterlife but graduation day. Even as the academy's director approaches to ask why a brilliant mind like him is acting so strange, only for Berga to look down and see the red badge of a demon king, confirming that this terrifying reality is finally true. Then it clicks, and every missing piece snaps into place with a sickening clarity. 15 years ago, the students of the Demon King's military academy finally graduated. I don't know why I've returned to the past, but this is my second chance to start over and finally do it right. The announcer roars, "Summa laude, Bergadias. Please read it as the representative of your year," which is pure irony since they're asking the guy they just killed for breaking those same rules to be their hero. And there it floats in the air for everyone to see, the Demon King's banner showing the 6 rules of failure. He stares at those words with a dead look in his eyes, and since I've seen the Demon King's standard so many times, I followed its rules to the best of my ability. This very trash became the hero's lucky charm and finally brought about my own end. The memory of the humiliation, the laughter, and the hero's arrogance flood back, twisting his face into a mask of pure rage. The announcer, totally unaware that a volcano is about to blow, pushes him to read the great Demon King's standard again. A terrible mistake that echoes through the quiet hall like a declaration of war against his own fate. The whole student body froze in shock, with the sheep guy's brain sounding like a dial-up connection as he struggled to process it. I can't promise to do something so stupid, and going along with the crowd is just plain foolish. The Demon King's banner is a total mess. And across the hall, jaws hit the floor because the top student, the pride of the academy, just crashed his career in the most spectacular way possible. Archduke Archean Glarm is going crazy over Burge's insult and giving him one last chance to apologize. But our boy isn't about to take that offer. You better apologize right now, or Arian will send you to his literal graveyard where demon kings go to die, so pick your fate. The crowd is going wild because they know Arian's kind is doomed to die the moment they step near him. They believe death is a reward for someone who dared to mock their sacred rules, and their hatred is very real. Archean tells him that dozens of kings have already died in that frozen place, so it's not a big deal, is it? Burge isn't scared at all, so he just tells them to quiet down and send him there right now. He's about to show that their holy demon king is just trash. As Archie declares him hopeless and the order to Arian is sealed, he loses all his privileges and must face the endless occupation alone with no subordinates to help him. Burge accepts the situation with grace, knowing that making a scene would cost him dearly. He is plunging back into Arian, the very same spot where Heroes ended his life in his last turn, a true moment of nostalgia. He picked this spot to take down the ultimate boss, only to learn that his old pride cost him everything and that the heroes were just playing by the rules while he was too arrogant to see it. He crashes down like a missile, causing a huge explosion right in the middle of the Urgus Mountains, a cold and empty place that feels like a fresh beginning. He won't be a victim twice. This time, he's the one who will use the rules against them. Time flashed back as the hero stood tall, ready to uncover how this entire mess truly began. Meet Gordon Dyrek, who is getting ready for the biggest day of his young life. Gordon has finally reached the very top, proving he is the chosen servant of the mightiest demon king. The rules are simple. The academy builds demons who are trained to serve kings, making the best demon the perfect match for the best king in a perfect match made in hell. While the other graduates stare on with jealous eyes, a beaming Gordon has just scored the legendary Burge, and is convinced he's about to serve the most powerful demon leader in history. His burning energy is pushing him toward the edge, and he's lost his mind. He calls Burge a once-in-a-millennium talent, and the hype is through the roof. He's pouring on the glaze to make sure his name gets carved right beside his heroes. Then Burge steps up and completely ruins the graduation ceremony with one shock on Gordon's face that proves this wasn't even in the brochure. Burge yells it out for everyone to hear. Then time jumps forward to show Gordon's face frozen in a masterpiece of pure terror. He stands in the snow clutching his suitcases, staring at the mess his life has become in such a short time. It turns out those annoying rules made Gordon have to follow Burge all the way into this cold exile. Burge tries to say hi to his old buddy, but Gordon is too grumpy to want a greeting right now. He can't understand why Burge would willingly throw his career away right in front of everyone in the demon realm. He's panicking because Arian is a walking death trap, and he definitely didn't sign up to freeze to his death. Burge tells him to take a deep breath, because he's about to lose his hair from how much Gordon is freaking out over his existential crisis in the snow. Burge notices that Gordon was much cooler before the regression, proving that some things never change. Gordon gathers his courage, apologizes for his earlier outburst, and steps up to do his duty. The first rule is to build your tower so it stands proud and out in the open, making sure the heroes can find and reach you without any trouble. Gordon is back to worrying, saying this spot is far too dangerous and hidden to build a proper tower. Burge doesn't budge an inch as he builds his tower right here in this icy wasteland. He takes out a tower seed, plants it in the dirt, feeds it some blood, and watches the tower rise. Gordon is horrified, convinced his lord is throwing away his pride and the rules all at once. Burge knows the ache of a belief etched into your bones, but he's finally walked away from it. He was once just like Gordon until death revealed how rigged the game really was. He tells Gordon to listen up because the Demon King standards are total garbage. In Arion itself, a place that serves as the actual graveyard for every Demon King who followed the rules. He awakens the seed, sending a huge shockwave crashing through the snowy mountains. He spits out the truth, revealing that Arion is packed with heroes who are just itching to make the Demon King play fair. The tower kicks off the race by identifying the black flame demonic dragon named Burge Dias, and as the ground shakes, the summoning begins. Burge tells how people figured out the towers had a fixed mechanism and turned the rules against them. Now he calls them hero standards, not a rulebook for kings but a handy guide for farmers. A huge, dark tower bursts out of the snow, leaving Gordon speechless as he watches something impossible rise up against the world. Now that the tower stands tall, they rush inside to find floor 1, which is strangely empty down to the last brick. With no monsters or traps to stop them, the heroes climb straight to the 5th floor and find the Demon King's room empty just like the rest. Gordon tries to keep his spirits up, knowing that now that the tower stands, they must follow Rule 2. Rule 2. Grab a prince or princess, especially one near the throne, to steal the most power possible. The higher your rank, the more demonic power you draw from the kingdom's deep rage and sorrow. Gordon gives his best advice, hoping Burge will finally start acting like a true king. He points out that Corson is the perfect target, being our closest neighbor and home to a high-ranking princess. Burge agrees to the crazy plan, which shocks Gordon more than the tower itself, but there's a catch. Gordon is stuck guarding the empty building. Gordon is thrilled, believing his lord has finally woken up, though he is sadly too naive to see the truth. Gordon asks which royal beauty they are kidnapping, so Burge flies off to the southernmost nation, Hildern, where he arrives at the castle under the cover of night to snatch the 13th princess, the one who barely gets noticed in the whole kingdom. He makes his grand entrance to deliver the news, but Princess Ernana Hildern asks if he can actually handle her while Burge Dias looks confused, wondering if she thinks being a demon king is just a joke. She joyfully invites him to take her, making this the easiest kidnapping ever. Burge thinks someone is hiding a secret reason, because no one stays so calm while being dragged out of their bed. Ernana claims she's been expecting this since the day she was born, because princesses get kidnapped, and she insists there's no trap, promising to be the most cooperative hostage you could ever meet. Burge feels a knot of unease in his stomach because this whole thing seems way too good to be true. Anyway, he grabs her and heads back to the evil lair. They reach Burge's tower in the Urgus Mountains, a place that is freezing, covered in snow, and feels very threatening. Gordon Dyrek welcomed him back, and though Burge was still carrying his new load, he put her on the 4th floor because she was so nice about it, so there was no dungeon for her. Gordon has even more news, because life for a demon king is never quiet. Ernana stands all by herself in a huge, empty tiled warehouse. The cold, hard floor and empty, gardenless palace feel strange at first, but she actually likes it, showing just how low her standards really are for living in royalty. Burge receives an invitation to the Tower of Smells, which Gordon calls a welcome party, but he suspects it's really just a hazing ritual where they want to show off their power. The proud demon kings never join forces unless they have no other choice. Burge decides to take a look, figuring it's worth a peek at what the neighbors are up to in their jungle-themed tower. Meet Traxon Doldorf, the Demon King, a giant furry who oozes attitude. Traxon isn't impressed, knowing full well that Burge loves to mock the old ways. Burge isn't here for small talk. He snaps at the Wolfman to get over to Traxon, where the Archduke Archiend Lord ordered him to keep an eye on the newcomer. Burge calls the Archduke a loud, reckless old wolf crashing into a wolf's den. Traxon is so angry that you can't just insult the bosses and expect to get away with it. Traxon tosses a piece of meat at the real mature move for a demon king. He tells Burge to lick it, but this guy's ego is so huge it just won't let him. Burge presses Traxon, asking if he even realizes why he's really there, because he's not following the plan at all. Burge points out that demon kings aren't allowed to kill each other by rule, but then he just stomps on the meat to send a clear message. Burge no longer cares about their rules and is now making his own. Traxon freezes in sheer terror, overwhelmed by a power far too great for a mere nobody like him. Traxon quickly turned around, having just made sure the kidnapping went smoothly. Burge reveals he's already way ahead of schedule. He even says she fits his style perfectly, which is a bold move. Back at Birch's tower, everything is quiet for now. Gordon is blown away, admitting that Birch truly revealed the power of a demon king today. Birch sends Gordon to check on the he needs to learn how to use her, because being a non-traditional demon king is getting more troublesome by the minute. But he never regrets it because he'd rather choose his own path than just be a puppet again. Birch Diaz has had enough of playing nice and would sooner die than bow to those snobbish traditionalists. He plans to start from the very beginning, thinking he can get only a tiny few hundred points by kidnapping the young princess. But then 13,000 points appear, meaning either the system is broken or he just hit the jackpot, followed by a sudden video call from the Tower of Beasts that is definitely not a get-well-soon card. Trax and Doldorf are cheering on the new guy for showing off his strength, even though the big wolf thinks Birch's rebellion was just a clever trick. Birch doesn't believe it. Something feels wrong, and it's not just because of the sudden fan mail. Gordon Direct bursts in, absolutely terrified, because something terrible is happening on the 4th floor. What used to be a cold, empty room is now a real forest buzzing with butterflies and magic. Birch rushes to the scene and is immediately overwhelmed by a huge, "What the hell?" moment. The system shows the area is becoming natural again. His evil tower is turning green, and there she is, Princess Ernana Hildred, chilling with elementals like she owns the place. Birch realizes this is powerful magic and knows she's far more than a weak minor, confirming she's not the 13th princess he was searching for. There is only one person in the world who has learned to control all 4 elements. She's the first princess of Hilderin, and Birch has stolen the one person he never should have taken. While the Hilderin kingdom is still going about its day, news of her kidnapping drops like a bomb. King Hilderin is going crazy, so he's shouting for every hero and the whole army to join his crusade. The knights stand ready to march, but Birch has just stumbled into a war with the kingdom's mightiest power. With a sly grin, Princess Ernana hits him with her royal heirloom ring, showing off her insane power while mocking him for missing the mana pool and being floored by Birch Diaz. The princess wonders if he is getting cold feet and wants to send her home. Birch knows that if he turns back now, he'll become a joke to the demon, so he must see this through, and as a screen flashes showing he holds nearly 20,000 demonic energy, he tells her it doesn't matter who she really is. Whether she's a hostage or not, she's not moving an inch. In the land of Hilderin, peace is far from here. King Hilderin is going crazy, screaming that he wants the demon king's head. His advisors try to reason with him, but they have no idea what kind of demon king they're up against. The king doesn't care for excuses. He wants his daughter back, and one advisor starts to suspect that everything isn't quite right. He brings up the demon king of lust getting beaten up by heroes for doing the very same thing. King Hilderin isn't listening because he thinks it's just another arrogant punk. A report falls into place, showing the teleportation trail leading right to the Urgus Mountains. The king is absolutely shocked, wondering who on earth would ever choose to build a base out in that freezing wasteland. Hidden far away in the middle of the mountains, Birch Tower stands all by itself. Gordon Direct is sweating from worry, fearing they can't take on an entire kingdom's army. Birch just smirks, knowing the Hilderan army won't even make it past the border. So he points to the map to show they're too far north to reach us without starting a war. With no neighbor willing to let a huge army march through their land, for Hilderan realizes he is trapped and must call on a hero, even though the grand headquarters of the Hero Guild is not filled with noble champions. These heroes are just hired guns chasing a quick cash payout, and nobody is willing to freeze their tails off in the north. Birch planned this whole thing, knowing that heroes care more about their wallets than Gordon was shocked to realize, proving how well Birch understands human greed. It feels like Birch has already played this game a dozen times before. Back at the palace, the king is so angry that no hero will take up the challenge. He finally realizes they are nothing but people chasing profit at any cost. Birch counts his resources and realizes that raw strength alone won't be enough to stop an entire army. He recalls the bitter taste of defeat, realizes he must change his ways, and tells Gordon he'll sell his dark power for human cash. Gordon's mind completely melts at the thought of selling the ultimate power to a demon, knowing it's like trading pure gold for dirt, while Birch remembers that money buys influence and influence is how you win wars. He reaches Holton Work, a fortress city that acts as the gateway to the human world, dressed like a common mercenary ready to slip inside. The guards at the gate are angry and quickly mark him as suspicious. Birch doesn't argue. He simply tosses them a coin to get the show moving. Once the bribe was taken, he's ready for the next part of his plan. So Birch, pretending to be a file clerk, decides he needs a local guide before he can explore the city. He walks straight to the Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild, where the tough captain is already drunk. The captain boasts that he just relaxes and takes the treasure while the common soldiers do all the hard work. One of his soldiers brings up the new Demon King, but the captain just laughs and calls it fake news. Even hearing that the Hero Guild rejected the job doesn't faze him at all. He's sure the whole kidnapped princess story is just a trick by the king to get people to spend more money. He laughs hard at everyone who gets greedy over money. Suddenly, a dark shadow falls over him, and Birch isn't laughing. As the captain crashes to the floor in sheer panic, Burge flashes a chilling smile and orders the trash to clear out, so he can talk to their boss. Those hired guns won't just listen to a stranger and rush in to get the job done. Burge makes a huge error and begins sending people straight to the infirmary. He's moving so fast that the mercenaries are literally flying through the air before they even know they've been hit. One guy tries to sneak up on him from behind, but Burge doesn't even have to turn around, he just brings the hammer down with crushing force. Burge halts the attack instantly, his eyes burning with pure evil. As he tears the guild apart piece by piece, the whole tavern ends up in a mess. The mercenary captain freezes in horror, staring at something that isn't human, and within seconds the tavern falls deathly quiet while broken men groan in pain. Burge towers over the trembling captain, offering him a deal, and his very first question is simple. He just wants to know where the local slave market is. They walk toward a huge gated mansion that smells like old money and human misery. The captain takes the lead with his pride in ruins, showing off the cages while only dismissing the ordinary human slaves Burge ignores. Burge dumps a heavy sack of gold on the table, and while the captain's fear melts away into greed, Burge points out the funny truth that humans and demons become the same when they want something badly enough. They move deeper inside the building to check out the special stock. Back at the tower, Berga had already laid out his plan to Gordon. Buy Power's price with human gold. He is hunting for an elf so honest that no one would ever suspect him. He wanted to turn the elf into a secret spy inside the hero guilds to destroy them from within. Meanwhile, in the capital, the king gets some good news when hero Heliam Cargill finally arrives. Cargill drops to one knee, promising to save the princess and bring back the demon king's head. He shouts a big promise to finish the job for justice, but just wait until you see if he can really do it. Berga stares at the caged elven prisoner, already plotting to turn him into a spy to trip up the heroes. Behind the cold bars, the miserable slave named Granada sits in despair, her wild green hair messy and a gag forcing her to stay silent. Berga tells the merchants he's buying the elf, making it clear that his companion is the one paying. The merchants, trembling with fear as Burge's power surges, instantly agree to everything he demands. Berga orders everyone to clear the room so he can speak with his new purchase alone. One merchant complains but stops talking once the gold is in front of him, and as soon as the room is empty, Berga steps up to the cage, releases a burst of dark energy, and snaps the lock open. Granada sees the dark power right away and asks why a demon is messing with an elf. Berga gives the elf a chance to take revenge on the humans who once enslaved him. Granada shakes his head, refusing to trust a demon just as much as he would trust another human. Berga promises him safety and freedom for 50 years of loyalty, noting that such a long time is just a short nap for an immortal elf. Granada lifts up the great world tree, aware that demons are always looking for a reason to set it all on fire. He insists on understanding how he can ever trust a beast that is born to tear his world apart. Berga just flashes a confident smirk, ready to make a deal. He promises the Demon King on his standards that he will never hurt the world, and in return, he asks Granada to swear on the tree to serve him for 50 years, a bold deal that makes Granada grin with excitement. The elf says hello, but asks to meet the Demon King first. Burge shows no hesitation and reveals he is the one Granada seeks, leaving the stunned elf in disbelief as Granada bursts out laughing, thinking the Demon King just traveled all this way for a simple slave. He laughs and says he'll double the contract to 100 years if Burge is telling the truth. The scene shifts to the 5th floor of the tower, where the harsh truth finally hits home. Burge sat on his throne and reminded Granada that he was the one who offered the 100-year deal. Granada is in a panic because they found the Demon King's tower totally empty. He discovers that there isn't a single monster guarding the way up to the 3rd floor. On the 4th floor lies a quiet garden, a far cry from what he predicts as a scene where heroes will tear the place apart within a year if things keep going this way. Burge unleashes a surge of pure evil that fills the whole room. Granada is crushed under the heavy weight of the situation, finally knowing this man is genuinely the real deal. He remembers how those terrifying monsters outside were too scared to even approach the tower. Humbled by everything, Granada drops to one knee, promises his life to the next he, and waits for a grand, evil mission to start his long-awaited revenge. Instead, Burge simply tells him to head to the kitchen and cook a meal. Granada's mind freezes completely when asked to do something as boring as this. Before long, the mighty elf general is wearing an apron and chopping vegetables when Princess Ernana bursts into the kitchen to ask if she can help bake some bread. Later that night, the whole group came together in the dining room for a feast that felt strangely normal. Granada leaned close and whispered to Burge, trying to find out who the girl at the table was. Burge casually tells him that she is the Princess Ernana Hildrian he kidnapped. Granada is going crazy, screaming at Burge that kidnapping the crown princess was utterly insane. Burge doesn't even look up from his food. He just tells the elf to sit and eat, since that's exactly why he bought him. Burge says the food is pretty good while Princess Ernana happily chips in that she helped out, and later on the 4th floor of the tower, Granada worries he might have to fight heroes, only for Burge to clarify that he wants Granada to be a spy in the human world instead. Before Burge decides if his new recruit is truly worthy, he proposes a dangerous challenge. He'll fight with only one hand and no magical power, and if Granada wins, he'll erase 50 years from their contract, giving the elf the perfect reason to unleash everything he has to destroy him. Burge dodges the blow with ease, remarking that, for a former slave, Granada's movements are surprisingly sharp. Granada sneaks up from behind to tell Burge he picked the wrong opponent in the wrong place. He snaps a vine around Burge's leg, thinking he's finally won the fight. He lunges in for the final strike to reclaim his 50 years, but Burge just smiles while a creepy, terrifying demonic shadow rises behind him, looming over the elf like it has him right where it wants him. He tells Granada not to worry, but his own face goes pale as he realizes he never had a chance, and then a massive shockwave rocks the entire tower, signaling the end of the test. The scene shifts to Horton Walk, the Red Hawk headquarters, where the mercenary captain is thrilled to see Burge again, especially after their last meeting. Burge offers a huge bag of gold as a deposit for a full year, instantly earning the crew's loyalty and making one mercenary dream of recruiting a new team. Burge steps in to tell everyone that Granada is the one giving all the orders from now on. Granada steps forward, all wrapped in bandages with a huge black eye from his tough spar with Birch. The mercenaries stare at their new leader, wondering if he's really the real deal, while Birch thinks to himself that, even if they seem average, they are battle-hardened and simple to control. He locks his eyes on Hillen Cargill, the hero who once bested the Demon King, and then gathers his crew to announce their very first mission. Birch shouts that they will investigate Hillen Cargill, the hero who now stands alone in a frozen wasteland, working inside Birch's lonely tower. Birch decides it's time to grind for levels since his crew is broke on demonic points, so he needs a new way to power up. Step inside the Spirit Blossom, a mana crystal that acts like a cheat code for power, hidden deep in the scary Urgus Mountains where humans dare not tread, but a treasure trove for the brave enough to survive the mana storms. Birch tells his aide he's off on a flower hunt. Golden Direct tells him he's like someone looking for a needle in a desert with no map. Finding them is the tough part unless you have a pro's radar. Just as the moment strikes, a knock at the door brings Princess Ernana Hilderin peeking in with a joy that doesn't quite fit a hostage's fate. The guys were left speechless because she had just barged in without being invited. She has gathered her closest friends and is all set to head out on an adventure. She's already bored with living in the tower and is busy planning how to change up the rooms. Birch says yes to the deal, but only if she can really find those blossoms. Princess Ernana feels so happy that she won't be stuck indoors all day. Birch can't just walk, so instead, he grows huge wings to scoop her up, blasts them off like a rocket, and leaves the princess speechless with the view from high above. For the first time, she realizes just how vast the world truly is. Once back at the palace, her days were just an endless circle of studying and practicing magic. She loudly boasts that she is the only royal in history who has ever flown this high. She feels brave and tells him to just call her Ernon. Burge isn't taking any more jokes, so she heads to work sending her spirits out to sniff for mana. It zips along way quicker than the old-fashioned way. They discovered one that was still alive. A rare hyacinth flower shone with pure ice energy. It's a shame because a whole group of pearl-skinned orcs has already taken it. Burge tries to talk things out by telling the orcs to leave his land alone. Orcs hate being told what to do, so they just look at you like you're a tasty snack. Burge suddenly realized he had been way too hopeful about how smart they were. Now that talking has failed, it's time to turn these monsters into piles of ash. The orcs rush forward, convinced they'll crush you with ease. A huge burst of purple dragon fire shoots out from Burge. Suddenly, the screaming erupts and then cuts off almost instantly. A few of the stragglers lunge for the girl who looks the most vulnerable. That was a bad move because Burge is only just getting started. With a snap of his fingers, the whole area bursts into smoke. Ernana could only stare in shock, knowing these orcs had no chance at all. Burge never even gets a drop of sweat, because he is playing on a whole different level. This is the real power of the demon total annihilation. Back at the site, the orcs have vanished and the treasure is finally safe. Ernon is absolutely thrilled by the Spirit Blossom's purity, which acts like the best fuel possible. Burge promises a share if she finds the mountain's one-hit wonder, suddenly making her Hernan's most driven partner as they fly back with him completely exhausted from the search. Home is safe, but Burge's tower looks as scary as ever, standing dark in the snow. Burge admits he was wrong because the girl is actually worth the trouble, even though Ernon is passed out cold while his spirit buddies hang out, proving that being a radar operator is hard work. Gordon quickly dives in to share a report from his insider in Granada. Hero Hillen Cargill and his squad are moving along the scenic route, sticking to their plan of doing side quests to get stronger before they face the big boss. Gordon has a pile of standard countermoves waiting for Burge to give the final okay. Burge just yanks everything into the trash, clearly done with playing fair. No more trash mobs or scripted events. He's making the heroes' lives way too hard, so he orders Gordon to have Granada's crew help the heroes and gain their absolute trust, while Burge is going to give the tower a major tactical upgrade with his next essential hire, a dwarf, because you can't have a proper tower without one. Gordon is completely losing his mind, turning the tower into a wild circus as a princess and a dwarf clash in the chaos. One glance from Burge was enough to make Gordon rethink his whole life, because he isn't looking for just any dwarf, but someone who can forge the finest magical tools there are. Picture the heroes' shocked faces as they expect weak slimes but instead get blasted by a whole line of powerful cannons. Gordon stares in shock as Burge tosses away the Demon King's handbook, and before he can even react to the crazy sight, the king is gone, leaving Gordon to realize with a heavy heart that it's time for kidnapping again. Deep underground, we reach Wulfner, the famous city of the dwarves. The rhythmic clang of hammers on anvils bounces through the giant, glowing forge of Meet Loser Frederick, the world's greatest blacksmith, just as the next guest steps into Wulfner, the huge underground city of the dwarves. He's battled many dwarves before his reset, yet this marks his very first trip to their homeland. He pulled into the Midnight Inn to gather some secrets. Burge slides a gold coin across the counter and asks where he can find the town's most legendary blacksmith. The barkeep chuckles and admits that dwarves love gold just as much as the heroes. He guides Burge to a huge elevator in the city center that takes you straight up to the top secret floors. Burge jumps aboard and zooms down, skipping the boring security checks like it's nothing. He dives down to the city's lowest level to find a hidden workshop where a dwarf is hammering metal in the glow of a blazing forge. That's Loser Frederick, the very man Burge has been hunting for. As Burge watches Loser craft, he sees the metal move with such skill that it looks like mana itself is dancing. The plan is easy. Sneak the guy away in the dark and vanish before anyone sees us. Just as Loser hit the anvil, he spun around and swung his hammer at the intruder, surprising the dwarf because a simple blacksmith could sense the evil magic leaking from him. Loser unleashes a towering pillar of fire, and as Burge sees this terrifying power, he realizes this man isn't just a blacksmith but a true hero. Loser steps up as the city's hero blacksmith and promises that no demon will ever leave alive. Burge just smirks, secretly knowing the dwarf is weak despite all his loud boasting. He drops his disguise to show his real strength, slamming Loser down to the floor, which only serves to bring the city guards rushing into the workshop to investigate the noise. By the time they burst through the door, smoke fills the room and the forge has gone cold. The guards go wild when they realize their famous hero has been snatched right in front of them. Burge and a gagged Loser crouch on a ledge, convinced the Demon King has come for the princess. Burge shakes his head at the idea of the princess and asks only for the path to the secret exit. The Loser doesn't believe a word of it, because he's too scared that he's about to become part of a royal scandal. He begins to cry, wishing he hadn't chosen a quiet life just to stay away from tough guys like Burge. When the dwarf refused to speak, Burge decided to switch tactics and play a game of mind games against him. He offers to let Loser go, but only after tricking everyone into thinking Loser sold the princess to save his own skin. Loser is absolutely terrified by the sheer evil of the plan. He knows everyone already thinks he's a coward, so they'll easily believe a rumor like that. Burge hands him a final choice. Walk out the door right now or spend the rest of his life running as a hunted traitor. Between endless agony and a quick betrayal, the Loser instantly picks the princess's ruin. Knowing the Demon King's promise is unbreakable, he feels safe enough to work with him. He excitedly marches us toward the tunnel, making such a gross face that Burge feels like throwing up. Back at the workshop, the guards are still searching the empty room when Princess Louise Worth arrives to find her place trashed and her favorite blacksmith missing. She shouts at the guards, refusing to believe a legendary hero could be taken so easily. So angry, she commands every soldier in the city to hunt down the kidnapper and bring Loser back right now. And if they fail, she promises to pull every single one of their heads off herself. Loser guides Burge through his hidden tunnel, the sole escape route from the city. Burge is squeezed tight and forced to stare at Loser's completely shabby appearance. He yells at the dwarf to speed up, but the dwarf just grumbles that the tunnel is too skinny for a human to fit through. After breaking free from the dark, they stand before the Demon King's tower. The Loser thinks he's finished his work, so he tries to run away and tells Burge he's all alone now. Burge just laughs, telling the dwarf that a Demon King's mercy always has a catch, and he doesn't care about his old promise because he has bigger plans for his new guest. The loser finally realized he should have just handed the princess over to the city and taken his chances there. The hero begs for his life, promising to forge the strongest weapons and even offer to spy if Burge spares him. So Burge agrees on one condition. The dwarf must swear to serve him forever, and while the dwarf bows in fear, he is already plotting to stab the demon king the moment he gets a chance. The little man giggles to himself. Sure, he's the boss of everything going on. They reach the 4th floor of the tower, which feels more like a quiet meadow than a demon's dark home. His assistant elf is so shocked by Burge's audacity to kidnap a hero that she can't even speak. Granada tries to jump in with a report, but Burge tells him to wait, while Princess Ernana watches from the sidelines, hoping for a rescue that clearly isn't coming. Loser finally asks the big question. If Burge promised mercy, why is he still locked up? Burge says getting knocked out and dragged here was just what had to happen, so with no way out, the hero finally snaps and starts messing around. Burge just smirks and asks if he's truly that eager to start his new job as a tier, forcing a liar out of Loser who claims he's never been happier. The Demon King approves of his new recruit's attitude and declares it's time for the first mission. He wants Loser to stack a row of cannons on the 1st floor to blast any hero who comes down the stairs right into hell. The Urgus heroes are gearing up for a huge adventure. Granada is watching them closely, and the gossip is already spreading like wildfire. Word has become the new Demon King, breathing black flames that leave the heroes trembling in fear. Burge's hologram shows up, trying to play it slow so the heroes will get bored and stop caring. It's a test of patience, so he orders the elf to watch every single move they make. Granada felt impressed to find that this Demon King truly understood the way humans think. After returning to the tower, Burge enforces a strict rule on the new floor. No mana stones allowed, which makes Loser Frederick sweat bullets, but Burge reassures him that without mana, heroes can sense any trap from a mile away and won't fall for it. He offers the dwarf a choice: solve the puzzle or face getting replaced. Panic works because the loser claims he has a tool that can hide all traces of mana. Burge doesn't believe it, thinking it's just a last-ditch attempt to get out of trouble. He quickly snaps a piece onto the tool meant to separate the dwarf's head, a move that feels like a terrifyingly good reason to stay, though it turns out to be just a mask hiding his fear, even though the real danger has finally gotten through. Burge spends the next month traveling through kingdoms to gather top-tier items, which he tosses straight into his subspace pocket because preparation is everything. Finally, they head back to Meanwhile, where violence is breaking out and you meet Louise Worth, a fiery princess with matching pigtails who is glaring through the blacksmith tunnels, furious because her favorite craftsman has vanished. She realized that Loser wasn't just walking away, he had been kidnapped. She warns the Knight Leader that if they don't track down the kidnapper within 2 weeks, she will make them pay with their heads. She commands them to block off every tunnel the blacksmiths had carved. She's the kind of person who really struggles to forgive. She gazes at a broken sword that the loser crafted before he disappeared. She smashes the blade but keeps him alive to finish her weapon, proving she's truly crazy. Little does she know that Loser is secretly watching her from a hidden tunnel, while his new mask keeps him perfectly hidden from being recognized. But she finds the hidden door. She peeked inside and whispered, "Is that you?" The tiny dwarf trembles, knowing he's in deep trouble. She begins popping her knuckles with a grin that sends chills down your spine. She believes he went into hiding just to avoid working for her. She calls him her slave forever, proving the poor guy can never catch a break. She jumps at him and throws a burning punch to punish his try to run away. A huge explosion shakes the tunnel. Suddenly, someone stepped in to block her shot, leaving her stunned and staring at the spot where the ball had nearly struck. Burge steps in and tells the dwarf to get his tools ready. Louise is so angry she can barely stand it, and she demands to know who the stranger is and why he's defending her slave. Burge just stares with a flat expression and says he's actually the boss of the woman who was trying to blackmail him. Louise refuses to accept it, declares the dwarf her eternal servant, and charges at the masked intruder. She throws out a storm of fast hits, but Burge easily blocks them with his dark energy. He spots a small opening and delivers a quick kick to push the nervous princess back. Louise, shocked by the unexpected resistance, pours extra strength into her fists and smashes Burge across the room. But Burge quickly gains the upper hand and grabs her, as they trade nearly equal blows throughout the space. Louise Worth, the second princess of the Dwarven Kingdom, looks like a human but holds the heart of a monster. In her past life, she was a legendary hero back then, and now she's still strong. Burge can end it right now, but he's running low on battery, and going all out would drain him completely, especially with her soldiers closing in and an entire army waiting to corner him if he lingers too long. In the meantime, Loser is acting like he's been possessed as he works furiously on a huge piece of technology. Burge is losing patience while the dwarf frantically works to take apart his own creation. Look at the Mana's Phantom, a giant floating ball that can hide magic signs, which is exactly what a hiding demon king needs to stay secret. The clock is ticking down, and Burge has handed him just 1 minute to pack his things or face a dwarf kebab. Louise is back for another go, and Burge warns Loser he's walking out in 10 seconds whether he comes or not. He's sweating because without his full demonic power, he's just bluffing his way through this. Another huge boom shakes the ground as Louise unleashes everything she has left on the cloaked figure, her eyes wild and fierce as she vows to break Loser's legs so he can never run away again. Burge just smiles because he isn't only taking the dwarf away, he's grabbing the valuable gear with him, too. The Loser finishes the job just as the princess throws her last attack. She couldn't believe the little guy had the nerve to rush back for his tools right in the middle of the battle. That was the opening strike Burge had been waiting for. He connects with a heavy blow that sends the princess flying back across the room, clearing the way for them to make their move. With a wave of his hand, he pulls the equipment and the terrified blacksmith into a pocket of time. Louise screams that he's wasting his time, but she's just letting out her frustration for now. Once the dust clears and the room falls silent, the target is gone, having vanished into thin air. Her soldiers finally arrive, only for her furious leader to call them useless slowpokes and shove them into the tunnels, even though she secretly fears they might already be gone because she never thought making that deadly weapon would make him brave enough to risk everything just to get away. Then she starts to grin because for the first time, someone has actually challenged her. Louise becomes furious and promises to hunt the whole continent until she finds them both and makes them regret it. Returning to the tower, they found a huge magical ball now sitting on the first floor. The princess is blown away by how big it is, while Burge only sees it as the perfect trap to catch heroes. Loser nods to confirm that Mana's phantom is fully ready and stands by for the order to bring it to life. The dwarf trembles with fear, but Burge presses forward, eager to find out if this strange thing is worth the risk. The machine roars to life, whipping around in a wild swirl of blue energy. Suddenly, a bright light explodes from the machine, making everyone cover their eyes. The system warns that syncing with the tower will eat up a massive 10,000 points. Burge is shocked to find a secret feature, but he's not going to quit now. He nods to sync the system, watching his hard-earned points vanish in a flash. The tower has officially acknowledged him as its master and shifted its power source to demonic energy. The Loser is absolutely geeking out, and even as the creator, Burge didn't think this was enough, so he tells the princess to go wild with any spell she wants to test the new security. She joyfully fires a huge blast, which absolutely terrifies the elf who can't stand a spot of dirt. Burge peeked out from the doorway to check if the tower could manage the spell inside, expecting it to be easy to spot, so he stepped into the snow to test the new cloaking, only to find he couldn't feel a single trace of magic or presence coming from within. He places his hand on the snow to feel how well he can control the tower's energy. Suddenly, the huge fortress just disappears into thin air. It's the perfect hiding spot, a ghost tower that appears only when he tells it to. He can hide their hideout whenever he wants, even though the dark power drain is heavy, but having a secret base will be super helpful for what's coming next, and Luger is practically begging to rip the device apart to see how it works, while the dwarf is totally obsessed, saying he's never seen anything like it before, and Burge gives him the okay as long as his traps actually kill the enemies. So while Luger celebrates, Burge turns to the princess with a special offer. He wants her to stand up and fight the heroes on the 4th floor, but she's too scared to turn against her own people. He gazes at her, wondering if she's truly ready to play the bad guy. While Ernana debates which element would look the coolest, he tells her she just needs to reveal herself as an enemy to fluster the situation. She agrees but insists on one very specific condition for her new job. Burge waits for a hard time, but what comes next shocks him. She insists on reporting to him and even offers to lure the enemy away with her charm. Sitting back on his throne, Burge begins to figure out how to prepare for the big attack. The plan is straightforward. Thin out the enemies with cannons and use the princess as a deadly weapon, but with over 200 heroes closing in, he knows he needs more than just clever tricks. So he spots a corrupted spirit blossom and realizes he must gather many more to boost his own power and survive the next wave. Burge and the princess trudge through freezing mountains, but after hours of searching the snowy peaks without finding a single clue, this third failed attempt leaves the princess tired of the useless spirits. Suddenly, a huge creature with sharp claws appears right behind them. The Pearl Orcs are back, and they just can't seem to give up. Burge has finally put away all the surprises and is ready to blast them into the next life. But the leader makes a strange request. He asks the Demon King to take him in as family. The whole tribe falls to their knees, begging to serve the very man who once nearly destroyed them. Burge sees right through their sudden shift in attitude and tells them to stop trying to talk their way out of it. It turns out they don't want a hug. They just need to grow strong enough to survive the freezing wasteland. They even arrive with a peace offering, a chest packed with the spirit blossoms Burge had been chasing. No surprise he couldn't find any, since those smart orcs have been keeping them all for themselves. Their leader says that in this harsh world, being smart and talking things out are more powerful than just having strength. Burge knows he needs to respect the hustle, and finding a group that values sharp minds over muscle is exactly what he is looking for. He accepts the deal, eager to upgrade the tribe by taking their leader, Crudu, and filling him with a terrifying surge of demonic power. A dragon brand burns into Crudu's chest, locking him forever as the tower's loyal servant. Burge commands him to wander the snowy plains and build his family, promising riches that go far beyond just being strong. In that very moment, Crudu transforms right before our eyes to become the first warrior in Lord Burge's expanding army. The rest of the tribe screams their agreement and promises to stay forever by their new dark leader's side. Back at Burge's tower in the Urgus Mountains, the hard work is finally done and ready for the big moment. Outside, the Pearl Orc Legion stands ready to tear apart anyone who enters, while on the first floor, Lozier has rigged 60 huge mana cannons to give them a very warm welcome. Way up on the 4th floor, the princess is waiting, full of energy to play her part in the trap. Perched on his throne, Burge watches his screens with the focus of a champion, waiting for the stage to be perfectly ready. He's eagerly waiting for the heroes to show up so he can finally make up for everything he did before. Hero Hillen Cargill and his guide Granada finally spot the Urgus Mountains, but they have no idea they are walking straight into a slaughterhouse. Welcome to Holton Walk, the final stop before the heroes head out for the big inside, where the banquet is already in full swing and everyone is feeling festive, with Burge posing as the hero Hillen to thank the fortress master for the hospitality. The old man feels generous and pushes him to speak up, shouting for attention and shining the spotlight right on his star hero. Burge steps forward and shouts that their long journey is finally almost over. The heroes feel powerful and start to believe the Demon King is just too scared to show up. They raise a glass to tomorrow, certain they'll bring the princess home before you can say cheese. Burge fires them up by asking who truly runs the world. The crowd screams for justice while the wine keeps flowing. From the back, Granada watches the show with a calm Burge who has everyone under his control, from the merchants to the nervous onlookers, and he wonders if the tower will fall as easily as everyone thinks. But he shakes it off because if they win, he finally gets his freedom. He steps outside to get some fresh air and clear his mind before the march begins. Granada sits alone on the balcony, quietly checking a hidden device for a secret update. Suddenly, Burge jumps in with one last warning for the elf. Keep your eyes on the snow and stay awake at night, but run far from the tower just as Hillen suddenly appears behind you, nearly scaring your informant before he offers a glass of fruit wine and acts like a perfect, caring friend. He asks if Granada is starting to feel nervous about the big fight coming up. Hillen keeps his head down and admits he has no idea how this story will turn out. Taking down a tower is pure hell, never going like the hero's wish, so Granada reminds Hillen of his old win against the Demon King of Lust. He wants to hear that legendary battle's heroic tale told right by those who lived it. Hillen falls silent, his mask nearly slipping for just a heartbeat. He flashes a bright smile, giving all the credit to his brave friends and promising they'll win if they stay together, while playing his part perfectly. Granada looks like they're ready to cheer for the hero, at least for now. They step back inside to join the party. The moment the elf looks away, Hillen's brave glow vanishes as he eyes his ring, planning to trick Granada once more. The sun rises, and the army is finally ready to march. The army walks through the city gates while the people cheer loudly. They step into the Urgus Mountains Gorge, a narrow pass perfect for setting an ambush. The sky is bright and clear, making the soldiers feel lucky. They're making jokes that the monsters are too scared to show up, until something purple and gross drips right onto a soldier's head. He looks up, puzzled by the strange slime, but his face is about to turn pale. The cliffs are being swarmed by creatures far larger than anyone expected. Without hesitation, Hillen snaps into action and lines everyone up for the fight. The gorge is absolutely packed with huge, hungry ghouls. As the heroes scramble to find a way out, a frost giant bursts through the door and crashes the party. Hillen tells his team to scatter as he faces the massive, icy skeleton alone. He dashes in without a second thought, acting like the absolute star of the show. Compared to the Demon King of Lust, this giant popsicle is practically a joke. The giant steps closer and closer to Hillen. He jumps onto its arm. He sprints toward its head, radiating the kind of power that keeps everyone's spirits up. He gives the sign for the final move, his eyes hard and locked on his target. His sword cuts the giant in half with a burst of blue light, and he yells for everyone to run while acting like the perfect selfless leader. The way forward is jammed, and the heroes are frantically scrambling around like ants caught in a flood. A huge explosion blasts a path forward, yet the air grows even tighter with every passing second. They finally stop in the snow, panting hard and groaning that humans simply aren't built for this. and honestly, they're right. But the story of Hillen slaying a demon king is starting to feel real to them. They're beginning to think this guy might really be their hero. It's a shame the Pearl Orc just climbed the cliffs to ruin everything. Hillen feels a dark power rising as a huge blue orc steps forward to mock the heroes on behalf of the demon king. Hillen thinks they're easy to catch. But Granada is starting to feel pretty spooked. Birch suddenly pops into Granada's mind with a simple command to watch the snow. And as the elf finally understands the warning meant something huge, the orc boss vows that none of them will ever reach that tower. The mountains begin to rumble, a terrifying sound that freezes Granada in pure horror as she watches helplessly as an entire mountain begins to fall. A massive avalanche crashes down and wipes out the whole hero group. Granada yells for everyone to run, but Mother Nature is coming much faster. From his high tower, Birch grins at the chaos on his screens like a reality TV host and sneers, "Welcome, heroes," while savoring the show from his throne. He's done just defending himself. Now he sits like a king on his throne, laughing at the heroes' struggles, and reminds them of the 3 warnings he gave to Granada. The first warning on his list was the brutal snow, which outside wiped out half the camp while the orcs proved they weren't playing around. As Hillen Cargill struggles to stay calm and orders everyone to hunt for survivors swept away by the second warning, he reminds them never to let their guard down, because that's when the real fun begins. In the black of night, a horde of monsters attacks the camp, turning it into a bloody mess while the heroes are totally surprised. Granada barely holds on in the chaos, shouting curses at the Demon King for this endless nightmare. Burge just watches the chaos with a smug grin, knowing their numbers are half thanks to the daytime avalanches and monster raids, while Hillen finally climbs the mountain only to find no Demon King's tower in sight, leaving the view a total letdown. Hillen is going crazy because the tower, which should be massive and impossible to miss, isn't anywhere to be seen. Sir Warden steps forward and tells Hillen the troops are finally done. Hillen just stares in shock as his big adventure crumbles before it even begins. The Warden turns and walks away to save his own life, and the rest of the men follow him out of that failed mission. Hillen is seething with anger, but he refuses to quit, even when the situation looks terrible. 6 days later, only 52 survivors remain, and they spot a hidden tower, charging through the open doors as they think they've finally found a way out. Burge gives his last warning. When the tower door opens, you must stay far away. It is too late now because the huge mana cannons are already aimed and ready to fire. Hillen can only watch, horrified, as the trap finally snaps shut. A huge burst of power blows everything away in its path, and just one shot is enough to do it. In a flash, the crowd vanished from 52 down to just 1. A chilling display of ruthless efficiency. Burge was truly shocked because the huge explosion failed to bring down Hillen Cargo. Hillen stands alone in the hallway, choking on smoke and staring at the burnt remains of his army. He screams at the top of his lungs, realizing that this Demon King plays by a completely different set of rules. Turns out Granada made it through that nightmare too, which is pretty much a small miracle. Relieved that he isn't alone, Hillen forces himself to push forward, determined to clear the next floor. He pumps himself up, shouting that a new Demon King can't beat a hero who has swallowed the Lust King's power. Granada listens in silence while Hillen fills the air with words to keep his courage from fading. Hillen knows the empty silence on the 2nd and 3rd floors is a deadly trap, and he's already realizing something is very wrong. They climb to the 4th floor and step into a quiet garden, but something feels very wrong. Hillen is so confused because there's an entire forest inside the tower that doesn't feel scary. Yet Granada is getting a terrible feeling about this garden since it is far too calm. Suddenly, a voice laughs from the shadows, mocking them for making it, before a girl strikes a dramatic pose to reveal herself as one of the 4 heavenly kings guarding the demon, declaring she is the dark spiritist and their final opponent. She stands on a rock, surrounded by floating slimes that make Granada absolutely terrified. Hillen blinks and realizes she is Princess Hernana, so he calls her out by that name. Hernana panics and desperately tries to act like a villain, screaming, "I'm not a princess, okay?" She falls silent and lets loose a swirling black void of time to show how strong the darkness truly is. Hillen is stunned that the princess, even if controlled, shouldn't be able to use such powerful magic. So he hears Birch list the hellish battles they survived and realizes they are at their breaking point when the princess attacks her own side, causing Hillen to lose his mind and decide to destroy everything. Birch suddenly pops up right behind Hillen, his voice icy and sneering as he asks if the hero truly thinks he has a chance. A huge explosion of dark energy shakes the tower, showing that the real battle is just starting. Birge walks calmly through the smoke, facing Hillen Cargill, who draws his sword and calls him a coward, knowing he will need every ounce of strength for the fight ahead. He spots Granada on the hill, grabs her, and begs her to join forces because he's desperate for power and sees her as his only way out. Granada gasps in horror as he feels his life draining away, realizing this isn't the heroic partnership he ever wanted. Hillen stands tall, buzzing with stolen green power, while his friend lies broken and fading on the grass. Burge watches with a cold, analytical eye, knowing exactly what Hillen is doing and finding it absolutely pathetic. Hillen tells us he's using a forbidden tool called the Elf Eater, which drains an elf's endless life force to create pure magic for a hero. He stares down at Granada with a twisted grin, claiming his cruel sacrifice is for the greater good, yet he is nothing but a lying hypocrite. As Granada takes his last breath, he can only whisper that Hillen is a swindler and a fake. Burge finds it hilarious to watch the savior behave so cruelly and lowly, because that's the real fun for him. He sneered at Hillen, daring him to shrink back into a coward the moment the ring was gone, and for the first time Hillen stopped smiling. Hillen laughs, boasting that even the demon king of lust couldn't remove the ring, and convinced he's unbeatable now. As Birch shouts out one name, the air around everyone changes in an instant. Just as Hillen was about to say, "Ha!" the world vanished in a flash and his hand was gone, leaving him bewildered by the invisible force that moved faster than he could understand. Gordon Dyer steps out from behind him, calling Hillen rude and noisy, reminding him that a high-ranking demon has no time for human drama. Hillen is so shocked, he can't believe a tiny demon knocked him out while he was using a forbidden power that is hitting him hard. Birch towered over Hillen, his burning red eyes locked in as he waited to strike him from behind. Hillen's body is frozen solid by the crushing power of Birch, even though his brain is screaming for him to move. As a huge, scary shadow lifts up behind Birch, Hillen suddenly sees that he is way out of his depth. Birch slams his hand onto Hillen's face, cutting off his cry of "I can't." And Hillen knows in his heart that it is all over. Hillen looks up in terror, realizing this demon king is a monster unlike anything he has ever seen. Birch leans in with a cruel smile, ready to give Hillen the hard beating he deserves, because his hero days are finally over. A huge blast of power flattens the land as Birch finally kills the hero, leaving nothing but pure destruction. Birch looms over Hillen Cargill, the hero who is now just a broken mess on the floor. He's actually impressed, especially since most people would be dead 3 times over by now. The orders were clear. Throw him in a cell, gather the other survivors, and notice how Renata looks like a dried-up raisin, about to give up the ghost. Birch tosses him a carrot, a special spirit blossom given for his service. Granada heals in a blink, shifting from ancient ruin to his peak form and leaving him stunned by the pure, powerful mana he's never felt before. The dwarf at the radio station is going crazy with happiness over his brand new orders. Birch waves the crowd away, shouting for everyone to get back to their jobs. He strides off looking like a total superstar, leaving everyone in awe. Princess Hernana and Granada were shocked to see that he didn't look tired at all. Except for the moment he turns the corner, he is essentially crawling. He crashes to the floor and gasps for air, knowing that fight stole every bit of strength he had. Rule 1 for any demon king is to never let them see you sweat. He curses Hillen Cargo, calling him a monster who has reached the absolute peak of power on the continent. Birch admits he had to hold back his full dark power so nobody would catch him. If Hillen had been at his full strength, Birch would have been completely defeated. He had to play dirty, pushing the hero's deepest fears to steal the upper hand. He threw him into such a panic that he couldn't think clearly. And at that split-second opening, Birch made his move. His final, powerful blow landed and ended the fight, and he just breathed a sigh of relief that no one saw who he really was. He has finally broken the chain of the past, and now the old ways are no longer in charge. Now that he feels strong, he realizes he can fix everything and it's finally time to take revenge on the people who tried to kill him. As the heroes discover the true enemy, the human world is thrown into total chaos now that the tower is gone. The investors are furious and demanding that someone get fired after this huge disaster. Hero Warden tries to act calm, but he's just asking for a little more time. But the rumors spread faster than anyone expected, with news of the new Demon King, Hilderin, spiraling into a total meltdown over his missing daughter, while public morale crashes and whispers that Hillen Cargill is already gone. Even as Burge soaks up an endless flood of demonic energy. The Heroes Guild's top leaders are questioning Warden with intense pressure. He puts his very soul on the line to say he's telling the truth about what happened. The council suddenly sees they are in over their heads with a huge problem. They agreed to wait 10 days, and if Hillen isn't there by then, it means war. They're gathering every hero across the whole land to launch one last big attack. Down in the dark heart of the tower, the air gets thick with dread. Burge steps up to the bars of his most important new treasure. Hillen Cargill snaps at him to drop the nonsense and just say what he wants. Burge gives the hero a big new job, telling him to become his vassal and promising a huge change in his life. Cargill is shocked because he never expected the Demon King's minion to be part of his hero agreement. Burge drops some facts, revealing that being a hero is expensive because armor and weapons are funded by investors through high-interest loans, and if you fail the mission, you're left buried in debt while Burge smiles and keeps the real hero, Captain Cargill, right where he wants him, putting all the pressure on the captain. Cargill sees the trap and knows that even if he escapes, he's just a broke man running from debt and leaving it all up to Granada, the one who spilled every juicy secret about the hero's money. Cargill is furious, yet Granada has been serving the Demon King from the very start, making her a perfect double agent. Burge says people will eventually adjust, but he's already moved 3 steps ahead of them. He pulls out a purple brain bomb called Armani's Orb, and while Cargill is completely confused about what he's seeing, he instantly knows it means trouble for the humans. This glowing ball watches your mind and can suddenly snap you like a popped balloon. Burge hands him a choice. Take the glowing orb or face death, for there are plenty of other heroes waiting on his desk to fill the spot. Cargill tried to act like he was too powerful to be controlled, but the narrator saw right through him. Burge knows a way out. A hero can simply choose to lower their mental shields, and Granada is just waiting for the fun to begin. Cargill is completely losing his mind by calling Granada a crazy elf, and honestly, he's right. The hero tries to sound noble by swearing he'd never bow to a demon, but that lasted about 2 seconds. Burge has no time for a speech, so he shoves the orb down the hero's throat and yells, "Eat up, hero!" Granada fears the man might pick death, but Burge knows Cargill is a greedy soul who treats his friends like trash just to make a quick buck. And a guy like that is the very last person on Earth who would ever give up his own life. A system alert flashes as Cargill officially joins the team as a vassal to a Demon King, dragging him right into the dark side. Everything is going exactly as planned back at the tower. Gordon Direk is crunching the numbers and they look bad, because money is running low. They only have 2,000 gold to pay off Cargill's mountain of debt, which is a staggering 100,000. Money that's like a tiny nation's entire budget. Burge isn't worried because he's already waiting for that specific message to show up. He's talking about the Unison of Towers, a yearly gathering where all the local demons get together and spend centuries hoarding gold, turning the whole place into one giant piggy bank. Gordon is going crazy because his boss wants to gamble his life savings with demonic energy points once again. The advisor had to admit that Burge's wild ways are the only thing keeping them all standing. The invitation has arrived, and Burge is ready to scam his teachers and prove how it's done. Burge steps into the tall tower of lies for a deadly game, only to find the fiery Demon King already taking his seat for a big meeting. Drax and Doldorf, the Demon King of Beasts, greet him with a low growl. Reyna Soldian, the Frost Demon King, watches with cold indifference. The giant Demon King Uger Belva just glared down at the stranger with pure boredom. Finally, host Jason Cockman greets Burge with a smile that sends a shiver down your spine. Burge throws caution to the wind, shouting that they are all fools for creating that silly Uger, then slams his fist down to demand to know who this newcomer thinks he is. The huge titan rushes at him, but Burge just challenges him to make his move. Before Jason gets hurt, he ends the fight with one loud clap. He reminds everyone that they are there to talk about working together, not to kill each other. Burge is secretly amazed that Jason just wiped out the killing intent of 2 Demon Kings. Uger steps back, yet the heavy feeling of distrust between them lingers. Burge sits down, but he stays on his toes just in case. With the room falling quiet, Jason steps forward to start the talk. Drax gets straight to the point, asking what became of the missing Demon King, Cargill. As Burge practiced his calm face and prepared his excuse, the same heavy pressure hung in the air inside the aide's waiting room. Burge's assistant is drenched in sweat, desperately trying to stay on script. Though the other helpers are doubtful and the old rumors about Burge's tower have returned, his lies seem to be holding for the moment. He had already told his assistant to act clueless if anyone asked questions. The assistant finally sees just how much she's risking for her boss. He begins a furious rant about how troublesome Burge is, and screaming about her incompetence feels surprisingly good. It seems every aide has a grievance or complaint about their own Demon King. That open session of venting makes his fake story look even more real to everyone. Back in the main room, Uger is furious, unable to believe that Cargo gave up before even getting to the tower. Burge just shrugs it off and puts his tower wherever he wants, prompting Jason to ask the real question. Why would a top student like Burge, who should know better than to make rookie mistakes, leave his tower behind? Burge snaps that he's got everything under control and tells him to mind his own business. His patience is wearing thin from all this constant nosing around. Jason steps back with a laugh, though the doubt still lingers. Draxon is tired of the bad attitude and wants to get things moving. Burge knows he's raising their suspicions, but he'd rather face that than get caught out. He hasn't forgotten why he's here and needs to walk away with 100,000 gold. The Demon Kings keep playing their power games without realizing his true plan is already in motion. Burge keeps his mouth shut and quietly watches to see who is running out of energy. He locks eyes with Reina, noticing her calculated look as the meeting drags on. Burge was totally surprised when the unexpected invitation suddenly appeared. The pair stepped out onto the 13th floor balcony of the Tower of Lies to get a moment all to themselves. Reina Soldian finally drops her pretend act to tell him she's wanted to speak with him and actually agrees with some of his ideas, which was the very last thing he expected from her. Burge is instantly suspicious, wondering if that cold demon queen is actually just someone who lives by the rules but isn't as stubborn or foolish as the others. Reina knows demon kings must bend to survive, so she nods with respect at his improved look and hands him a personal transmitter to keep them connected. Then she asks him the real question. What does he think about the guy who invited them all? Reina admits she can't read Berga at all, but she thinks he's still smarter than Yuger and Draxen. With that, she heads back inside, leaving him with a surprise and plenty of things to think about. Berga watches the device with hesitation, knowing it's a useful tool even if he doesn't fully trust her. While back at his tower, Princess Ernana is busy in the kitchen baking fresh cookies for loser Frederick. She even called upon the elemental spirits to lend her a hand in learning the oven's tricks. The loser is moved to tears that a princess worked so hard just to bake. So he braces himself, ready to lie and say they're delicious even if they taste like charcoal. With just one bite, his soul nearly jumps right out of his body from the shock. It's more than just good. It's a spiritual moment that shakes the very energy within him. The loser is completely overwhelmed, having never tasted anything this heavenly in his entire life. The secret was that Ernana added spirit blossoms to a high-tier snack. She gives him a sweet smile, telling him they'll see each other for a long time while she's already planning to share the next batch with Granada. Her real hope is that even the Demon King would enjoy the main meeting hall of the Tower of Lies finally being empty.